guys? Welcome back to the Football Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Queen. And of course, before we get started with today's episode, I would like for all my viewers out there on YouTube to please hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you can be aware and alert for new videos that drop on the channel. Also, if you're listening to me on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even Spotify, please subscribe to the podcast. And as always, let's cue it up. Let's go ahead and start this episode with talking about the Miami Dolphins. And a segment I'm going to call What's Happening to the Miami Dolphins, right? So when Tua, in the games Tua has start and finishes this season, he is 8-2. Tua has played 10 games. The first 8 games he's played where he started and finished, the Miami offense has averaged 29 points a game. Since then, which is the past 2 weeks where he's 0-2, they have averaged 17 points a game. And I was looking back at the tape. I was looking back at the stats. I was like, what is causing this offense to struggle so much? Well, the two defenses, number one, they played the best defense in football in the 49ers, where they just got shellacked. They were very physical. Tua almost threw for 300 yards that game. And if you actually watch the tape of that game, there was a chance. I believe the score was 23-17. There was a chance in that ball game where Tua threw a pass on fourth down to Mike Gesicki, and he just dropped it. I mean, they were driving down the field for a chance to go up 1 point in that ball game, and Mike Gesicki drops it. I think Mike Gesicki doesn't drop that pass. I believe that Miami Dolphins go down to score. Now, what's to say that the 49ers would have answered with some points of their own, because this just would have been a field goal game? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, he looked ugly when that game first started against the 49ers. I believe he was 3-18 to start the game. 3 completions? I'm not going to go out there and say I could do it, but I probably could. I could check it down. I get about 5, completions on checkdowns. But my issue was then when they went to L.A., get to play Chargers. Number one, I'm going to point this out there. They said that there was heaters inside. You're inside a dome. Why are you having heaters? Oh, it's a little chilly in L.A. So you're going to bring heaters? It's not that. I've been to L.A. I actually been to the Chargers Stadium. SoFi Stadium. It's a pretty nice stadium. That stadium is not that cold. It can't get that cold in there. It's probably going to be like, 55 degrees minimum? You're probably hovering around like 63, 64 degrees. Why are you having heaters? That's a bigger issue than what I was going to bring up next. Okay? This team went to L.A. and they got manhandled. Team's very physical, the Chargers DBs. And I want to point out there, it wasn't like it was their first string DBs. If you look at who started that game, besides Asante Samuel, there was no Derwin James. There was no J.C. Jackson, right? They were starting their backups, and they shut down that Miami receiving core with Jalen Waldo, Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, Trent Sherfield, even Mike Gesicki. There was a non-factor. And also, one of the worst teams against the run stopped their running game. That was the story. They was able to look at what the 49ers did to stop them, adjust to it based on what personnel the Chargers had, and they were able to stop them, this Miami's offense. And then I look back, and I'm still trying to understand why this team plays so badly. Why can't they get more than 17 points? And then when you look at the teams they actually played when they were scoring all those points, I'm not impressed. I'll go down and name a few of the teams. They played the Texans, right? They played when they also played the Ravens in the beginning of the season. And the only victory I saw on their schedule in that 8 games that Tua actually finished the game I think the best team they played was actually the Bills. And they played a very physical game in the severe heat. So weather is a factor when it comes to football games, which leads me to my next point. The Dolphins have to go to Buffalo. Now, if you look at the resume of what Tua has done, Tua has not been successful in the cold. So you were just in comfortable environments, 2 games in California, not the worst weather. California really doesn't even get that cold. Now you got to go to Buffalo on Saturday. Saturday night football. Whoever thought I would be saying that, guys. Saturday night football. Yes. It'll be the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And I'm wondering, can Tua get the job done? Also, can Mike McDaniel have a play call that caters to the weather? You got to get the run game going, in my opinion. You have to get the run game going. You have to also take the checkdowns. I think that's the biggest issue with the Miami's offense is that they were so used to be able to throw in these windows, and it's just timed up perfectly. You have fast receivers. They'll get off their break real quick. Tua make the throw on time. Boom. Yards after catch. When he played the 49ers and Chargers, they didn't let all the windows were closed. So now what you do? Take the check down. Make them respect you. You have Raheem Mostert in the backfield who is a track athlete. Check it down to that guy. Let him get some yak yardage. Okay? Because what you're doing now is not going to work against the Buffalo Bills. Now, if you actually look at the Buffalo Bills side of things, they have not scored a lot of points either. But they've been winning games. Josh Allen understands, I don't have to win everything with my arm now. We'll run with Devin Singletary and James Cook. All right? If I will run the ball too, Josh Allen's been doing that all season. And also, if you look at his passing numbers, they're down. Because if you're playing a good defense like the Buffalo Bills did against the Jets and not the best conditions, it's going to be like that. It's going to be some type of field goal game. That's what the Miami Dolphins need to understand. Make this a field goal game. Okay? Don't put Tua in bad situations. Because obviously Tua is uncomfortable with what they're throwing at him on defense. And this is a guy who I thought was going to be an MVP this year, who could have been an MVP. But because of these 2 games, he has slid off of the MVP race. And can we go ahead and get this out the way before I talk about my next subject? Tua is not better than Justin Herbert in terms of quarterback talent, okay? Justin Herbert has a better arm. He's more precise, right? And he's bigger. Tua's a little small, 6 feet, 6'1"? Doesn't have the biggest arm. Good enough arm to get the ball there, but not the biggest arm. That's why you see sometimes in games he's underthrowing Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. We've seen it before. We've seen the tape. But to say that Tua is a better quarterback than Justin Herbert would be a lie. Now, Tua could be a better player, right? Or have a better season just because the Miami Dolphins have better personnel or a better coaching staff. Brandon Staley with the Chargers is too aggressive for my taste. He doesn't play he plays the game way too aggressively. He plays the game like I play Madden, okay? If anybody who's played Madden out there, you're going for 4th down. It's 4th and 10, you're still going for it. It's not wise to do that, but that's what type of game style Brandon Staley is. He's an aggressive guy. That's what he is as a coach. At least we know that. Because he believes that his quarterback can get him at every situation. Eventually, the Chargers, just like last year, it hurt them and prevented them from going to the playoffs. The Chargers will be affected this season. It's time to talk about the playoffs. And a segment I'm called Playoff Mode, right? Here's the thing. I'm going to list out some teams that are in the hunt for the playoffs or already in the wild card. And I'm going to just talk about some things that could help them and things they have to do in order for them to get there. So let's talk about one of my favorite teams or favorite stories in the NFL right now, and that's the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are playing probably the best football in the past 5 weeks. Jared Goff is playing like a Pro Bowl quarterback. And let me go ahead and talk about Jared Goff. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So Jared Goff was traded from the Rams to the Lions in exchange for Matthew Stafford and first round picks and draft picks in general. This guy has to go to Detroit, where their team has a rookie head coach. They have rookie players everywhere. Amar-Ra St. Brown. TJ Hawkinson was probably the bright spot, him and DeAndre Swift. But the team was very new. He doesn't have the best season. Of course, they picked second overall in the draft. And then I'm picking Aiden Hutchinson. So now you go to year 2. This is why I always say, don't write a quarterback off. Give him at least 2 to 3 years in a system, a consistent system, in order for them to improve. Because what you see this year, Jared Goff is second year in the system. I think he has 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's incredible. Completing 65% of his passes. So let's go back to Detroit. Detroit's key to success, they played the Jets this weekend. The Jets have a really good defense. They gave Buffalo a hard time. Both times they played each other. I'm talking the Jets beat them the first time. The second time, it's just Mike White, the quarterback of the Jets, got beat up so much. It was just too much to overcome. And it helped that when Joe Flacco came in the game, he fumbled. Old man Flacco still doing it. But back to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have a really good roster. Amar-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark. You also have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams at the running back position. And Jared Goff is orchestrating this whole offense. They have a good offensive line, Penei Sewell, etc. on that line. The key for them to actually make the playoffs, number one, you have to beat the Jets this weekend. That could be easier said than done. You have to beat the Jets. You beat the Jets, you go to 7. You go to 500 at 7-7. This team, their key to winning is their offense. Their offense is very high power. They're putting up 25 points plus a game, which is unheard of. I think they're the only team in the NFL who's scoring 25 plus points, but have a losing record currently. This team, Dan Campbell, don't get too cute. Make it simple. You're in the red zone, punch it in. Don't be greedy. See, I saw in the beginning of the season, Dan Campbell got desperate in certain games. And I talked about it in my previous episode of this podcast. Dan Campbell got desperate, and it showed. Was the game against the Patriots. They got blown out. And if you actually watch the tape of that game, it wasn't a Jared Goff problem. It was a coaching problem. It's as to where he was too aggressive too early for no reason. Take the points. And that's what I tell Dan Campbell. Y'all are winning. You blow out the Jags. You beat the Vikings, even though Kirk Cousins threw for 400 yards. And Justin Jefferson had over 200 yards receiving that game. You weathered the storm. Oh, and I forgot another skilled player on their team who's back. Scored his first touchdown last week, Jameson Williams. I should have said that earlier. But this team, in order for them to win, take the points. They'll be cute, take the points. You have Jamal Williams, who is top 5 in the league in terms of rushing touchdowns. I believe he has 12 or 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. This team can I believe this team can make the wild card. I believe they can make the 6th or 7th seed. I believe this team can. I don't believe they'll win the division. The Vikings probably going to lock the division up on Saturday. They get to play the sorry-ass Colts. Excuse my language. But this team can win Sunday against the Jets. This team can make the wild card. And it's because of the quarterback on that team in Jared Goff. Team number 2 that are in prime position to make the playoffs is the Commanders. The Commanders and Taylor Heinicke. I don't know what it is about Taylor Heinicke. I believe a guy out of Old Dominion, guy from Georgia. He just wins. And Mark Ritter said it best a couple weeks ago. He wins. Obviously, prior to the bye week they just had this past Sunday, they had a tie against the Giants, which is the worst thing mathematically. It's just going to make it even harder for them to get that wild card because it's just the math behind it is just too difficult. But if they beat the Giants this Sunday, they're in the wild card. Giants fall out, Commanders go in. Commanders will go to 8-5-1. Giants fall to 7-6-1. And it'll be the Commanders could ride it out. You already played the Eagles twice, so you don't have to worry about that. You still have to worry about the Cowboys, which will be difficult on your schedule. But go beat the Giants. Get Brian Robinson going early. Give Taylor Heinicke, give him some easy, fast throws to Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. This team is actually very good, and their defense is top 5, easily. We'll talk about Jared Allen and Montez Sweat are having like Pro Bowl caliber seasons this year. This team can make the playoffs. Now, what will happen when the team gets to playoffs? That's here. Once they clinch the playoffs, we'll talk about that. But that's team number 2. Team number 3 is the Jaguars. I know it seems like I'm playing favoritism because that's my home team. But Jaguars are in prime position. You play the Cowboys this weekend. If you beat the Cowboys, I say if, because the Cowboys are a really good team. If you beat the Cowboys, you only sit, and the Titans lose against the Chargers, you only sit 1 game behind the Titans. The Jaguars' remaining schedule goes Cowboys, Jets, Texans, Titans. And, of course, you need the Titans to lose majority of the games leading up to Week 18 to where if you play them, you'll be in a home wild card game. Whether you're 8 or 9 or 9-8. It doesn't matter what your record is when you get there. You got there. The Jaguars, or just like the Lions, the 7 Lions were quicker to recovering. The Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, their quarterback, found out how to work this offense a little too late in the season. All right, they won 3 of the last 5 games, which is impressive. But Trevor Lawrence, had he played like this at the beginning of the season, where he's on just on a tear right now. It's past 5 weeks, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 71% completion percentage, over 100 passer rating. This guy, if he was playing like this in the beginning of the season, their team will have a better record. It's easy. I always say this. Your division is usually won by the best quarterback in there. Hence why I believe the Jags can make the playoffs and win the division because they have the best quarterback. Ryan Tannehill, Davis Mills, and Matt Ryan are not better than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is already, in my opinion, a top 15 quarterback, if not a top 10 quarterback so far this season. But the keys for the Jaguars to win these games, keep doing what you're doing, Trevor Lawrence. Don't turn the ball over. Take what the defense gives you. Try to get the running game going with Travis Etienne. If you have that going for your offense, your defense is like Jekyll and Hyde, right? They're up and down constantly this season. Even though they're ranked top 15 in points allowed, this Cowboys team can score. I know it looked like they took the foot off the gas against the Texans. They won't do that to you, Jacksonville. They will come to play. So you better be ready. Thanks for watching and listening to the Football Corner Podcast. Podcast episodes will be dropped on Mondays and Fridays, as well as YouTube videos on Mondays and Fridays. You could click the link in my description in order to follow the social media links to my podcast social media pages. And also, you'll be able to stay up to date on new drops, new takes, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. See you next time.